Hey, I'm Sheniece Charway, and welcome to Battles and Blessings, the podcast where we take a deep dive into the extraordinary journeys of today's most influential voices. I created this podcast because I believe that everyone's lives, just like the biblical figures, are marked by both battles and blessings. On this podcast, you'll hear some powerful stories that will challenge and uplift you. All right, let's get into today's episode. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Shen. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm very, very happy to have you on here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Oh,
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. Do you know what's so funny? Because I feel like our friendship really established, well, I would say probably just before COVID. It was like when I was like, okay, no, Ashley's my boy.
Yeah, 100%.
Ashley's my boy. So I always used to see you around and I'm like, this guy takes cold photos
Thank you.
and videos. But like we never really connected, or I don't know if it was we weren't in the same places, but like we never really spoke.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, this guy is sick. So I'm very glad to have you on here, and I'm really excited for everyone to like understand how amazing you are and the work that you've done and that you continue to do and the amazing things that you've done for the culture.
Thank you.
It's definitely
Appreciate
something that a lot of people probably know but don't realize the extent of like you're one of the first. So let's take it back, I think. Let's take it back to childhood. Did you always know you wanted to do this?
I didn't. I like always loved music when I was in secondary school. I feel like a lot of people did. And I always loved media, so I was studying media in secondary school. And that kind of led to me pairing the two together. I think like when you're young, everyone wants to rap.
Everyone. Yeah, everyone.
It's like, no, we can't all do this. So kind of hence the name Ashley Verse.
Wait, let's get... Oh, okay. So because you couldn't rap, the Vert people... Okay. I was always wondering, how did you get your name Ashley Verse?
Yeah, so the whole name used to be Versatile, and then like no one's gonna call you the whole thing when you're like in school. Like that's long to say every 2 seconds. So it instantly became Verse.
Yeah.
And then when I went into media, I was like, well, I want to be known like by my first name. Like I still wanna have my name. So it became Ashley Verse, and then that kind of stuck. Especially as I started in music photography, it just was seamless. It made sense.
This makes sense. Do you know how I thought you got your name? Just that second was from like, you call it rap, but people spit bars and verses.
Yeah.
So I thought that's what you got rather than versatile. Okay. Okay. So when you were younger, like, I guess you always knew you were creative.
Yeah.
Were you like into like doing like the Bieber, the hi-fi?
Yeah, definitely. I used to do like the custom profiles for people on Bebo, make the themes and that. On the Walkmans, on them phones back in the day, I used to make themes for people, MySpace, all of that. So I was always like, I guess I was in graphic design back then. Like I loved graphics.
Yeah.
And I was always creative, but I think media expanded me into, okay, like this is what's happening in film and this is what people are doing with photo. This is what's happening in radio. Like the media course is vast. But then when I would pick something to tap into, at first it was music videos.
Yeah.
That's why I first wanted to actually pick up a camera.
How did you get into that? So you just decided one day, do you know what? I'm going to pick up a camera.
Yeah. I went into, so from studying media at GCSE,
yeah,
I went to college to do it. And during my first year, at the end of my first year, I actually got kicked out.
Ashley.
I know. But it was it's funny because it was such a catalyst. So that led to obviously the route was always like maybe like going to uni.
Yeah.
So I re-enrolled in a different college, and my mum said like, do college, but you've also got your uni years to figure out what it is you actually want to do. And I'm either going to pay for your tuition or I'm going to use the money to help you find your path.
I love that.
So she was always a supporter.
Yeah.
So with that, I decided that I wanted to make videos. She got me my first camera and my iMac, and I literally just started making videos, started building clients and working with like people in my area, and I was making loads of music videos for them and things like that. But I mean, at that time, I felt like it was limited. After all, I didn't want to make hood videos. I didn't want to go to everyone's estate anymore.
I've done this.
like having the media school education was like, I've been taught how to write treatments and things like that. And like at that time, nobody wanted to read that. They were just like, yeah, no, just gonna get the man them, link me here at 7. And I'm like, I'm tired. I'm actually tired. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, like, no.
No.
But it got you. So I guess one person that you worked with quite early on was Stormzy.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Especially because your mom like bought your camera for you. She believed in you. And then you get to work with one of the biggest artists in the world now.
Yeah, 100%. So Stormzy was local at the time.
Yeah.
And I knew about his music. A close friend of mine said that, oh, you should reach out to him because he was like one of our local artists, but he was always a talent.
Yeah.
So I think I reached out to him on Twitter. We got to talking, and it was just after he won Unsigned Stars. I did his first music video, and
Wow.
he was always a creative.
Yeah.
So we kind of did some hood videos, but then we did some videos that had like themes and stories behind them. And even if it was like quirky, like I remember we did a Hopsin cover, and it's like, it's mad. The things that we try to do is mad, but we always try to expand ideas. So
Yeah.
he was always sick to work with. But then like, obviously his growth has been amazing. I've been blessed to be able to like keep up in a sense, like still work with him on projects now. And even I've transitioned into photo every now and then. I'll still end up doing something with Stormzy.
No, I love that. And I think it's so nice to hear that like you obviously still work with him, but also you kind of knew what you wanted to do. It's like you've done the hood videos, but you knew, especially with studying media, that this was only a small part of your journey.
Yeah.
Like when was the turning point when you're like, okay, do you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I want to get into like the big boy stuff.
Do you know what? I think having a camera and being in my area, there was only a few people that had cameras. So all of my friends were asking me to do different things.
Yeah.
So even though I was doing videos, you'd have like a friend that, oh, I want a model, or I want pictures at my birthday party. I want this and that. So naturally, I ended up taking photos because I was just the only person with a camera. And I started to find like freedom in it. Like I could paint different narratives, or you could story tell through pictures, and it just felt fun. And I think around that time I was also turning 18.
Yeah.
So I started being able to go out and go to venues and this and that. So I started to go out and see like grime artists that I'd obviously been listening to since secondary school, but in person. So the two had to marry. I had to start bringing my camera.
Yeah.
I had to start documenting this. And it felt natural to me to just go out and shoot them and put it out. And that led to me building rapport with them on Instagram and things like that. And then, eventually they'd be like, oh, come to this show, come to that show. And it gave me the passion or the drive to start seeking out other shows, start finding out about how to get into an Eskimo dance, or even how to get into, a show that was like in an O2 Academy where you need a press pass and things like that. Like, I just started diving deeper and deeper into it from there.
Which is exciting. Nate, tell us about a few of your favorite campaigns that you've done. And like, you worked with like Nike, for example, and you've worked with basically probably most of the UK artists. And like, how has that been for you? And like, do you feel like, I guess God was always there and you knew that he was like guiding you to do this?
I think God's always been there. My mum always says that like God's always had a plan for me. Like I've never had to have a plan B. So even though there's been twists and turns with college and things like that, I've always been able to do what I want to do somehow, some way. So my mum always says God's always kept me on plan A. I think in my 20s, I wasn't really deep in my faith, but I'd always grown up in church.
Yeah. How was that?
Growing up in church was great.
Yeah.
I can't lie, growing up in church was great. I think it definitely foundationally taught me a lot.
Yeah.
But in my 20s, I can't say that I was using it, to be honest with you. I think a lot of what I was getting from God, or what I knew from God at that age, was being given to me by my mum.
Yeah.
I was taking it in, but I personally wasn't exercising faith.
Yeah. I think that's the same story for a lot of people. I think when you're younger, you go to church. You didn't really understand why you go to church.
Mm-hmm.
You go to church because your mum or your dad or whoever tells you, okay, you need to go to church with me. And then when you get older, you're like, okay, is this something I still want to do? What's my relationship with God? Because my relationship with God's always been through a parent or a friend or a family member.
Yeah, 100%.
And then you have to be like, okay, is this something I want to continue? I know God's there, but in what capacity now is different, which I think is quite interesting. I guess because God's always been there and you've been doing amazing things, and then I guess COVID happens.
Mm-hmm.
How was COVID for you? So obviously, you, like you said, you've been out all the time, you're at gigs, you're at shows, you're doing music videos, all these things. How the whole world stopped. How was that for you?
COVID in itself,
Yeah.
I kind of understood because it was happening to everyone and nobody was able to like maneuver, nobody was able to do things. I kind of took that as it came. I kind of understood that, okay, cool, like when no one's getting work, so it's fine. I think when things started to lift and I felt like the world should be returning to normal, and it wasn't for me, that's when, like, me as a person, I actually started to crumble.
Yeah.
I didn't really realize how much, like, through the things that I've been doing and how well it had been going, the trajectory was amazing.
Yeah.
When it started to crumble, I didn't realize I'd been placing so much validation on all the photography that I've been doing, what it was bringing me, the name that I felt like I was building for myself. So without that, it kind of felt like I didn't value myself in those moments anymore. And for me, I actually started to like sink into a mad depression. So I think 21 and 22, 2021, 2022, I actually was really low.
Yeah.
I was still trying to make like appearances and stuff. I was still trying to go out and do things, but ultimately I really wasn't there. Like I was really low. And I think some of it kind of spilled out onto social media. A lot of it spilled out like amongst my friends and my family, and they could see like I wasn't the person that I'd been like before.
Yeah. Well, I commend you for even talking about knowing that you were depressed. And like, I guess a lot of Black men, I guess mental health and stuff, we don't really talk about it enough.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you knew you were depressed, like how did that affect you? But also, how did you get the help that you needed to be like, hey, do you know what? I'm not the same person. There's clearly something going on. Like, how do I get out of this?
I didn't actually know a route out. Like I knew what was going on. I knew how low I felt. I knew I felt depressed, and I was speaking about it like here and there to family and friends, and they rallied around me, to be fair.
Yeah.
I feel like they did everything that they could do, even like the person that I was seeing at the time, that everyone did their best to be around me and help me. But I don't think I wasn't in a place where I could be helped.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like any of the things that they were doing, like I could really take it in as like a force of change.
Yeah.
I had actually gone to a DLT one day, done up enjoyment, was on my way home, but I was finished. I didn't realize how early it was going to finish because it was a day thing.
Yeah.
So I'm there enjoying, and it's kind of just, for me, like abruptly finished because I was like, oh, like I thought it was longer than this.
Yeah.
So where I probably would have taken the time to simmer down, I'm actually in the middle of my enjoyment. So by the time I'm going home, I'm actually finished.
Yeah.
I've fallen asleep on the tube and started to get towards like, I think I'm at the last stop. I think I'm probably at Stockwell on the Victoria line. And there was a girl who woke me up and was like, listen, like, I don't know if you need to change or whatever. This is going to Brixton. I don't want you to end up all the way back, like going back the other way. And I was actually meant to change at Stockwell. So we both changed together. Just kind of talking to her on the way home. When we got off, she was like, yeah, let me know when you get home safe and stuff like that. And we kept in like contact small.
Yeah.
Then one day she ended up inviting me to her church.
Yeah.
And it was a few months later, but I was very much still in my phase of depression, masking it with things like going out, smoking a lot.
Yeah.
Just trying to make appearances at things, but actually just being really low in myself.
Yeah.
And she'd messaged me and asked me to come to church, and I was like, I think I messaged her back and said, what made you invite me?
Yeah.
Because it felt mad timely. It felt like I've been trying loads of different things to try and get out of this phase, like relying on my friends, trying to do this and that. I think I'd even bought a whole new like range of equipment. I remember buying a new camera, bought some lights.
Yeah.
I thought this would give me the kickstart I need. And nothing I was doing, it wasn't clicking. It wasn't tiding over.
Something was missing.
Yeah. So I decided to go to the service.
Yeah.
And that was Caris Craden. And I think the first few weeks I went, I didn't really know how to feel. I just felt very heavy still.
Yeah. Because what was your relationship before with God until this moment? Like, were you like praying? Were you going to church at all? Was just like...
I wouldn't say I had a relationship with God.
Okay.
Not a personal one. Like, you know, I don't think everyone must work out their salvation with fear and trembling. So even though like my mum was a believer and stuff like that, it's not gonna save me in that sense.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a personal relationship with God. I had a foundation of what I knew about church and Christianity, but I wasn't praying. I wasn't reading my Bible. There was nothing about God that I was partaking in.
Yeah.
So starting to go to Caris and starting to hear the word, I was taking stuff in. It was sick. Like service was so insightful, but I still had this heaviness. But ultimately, I'd started going. I kept coming back. I was coming back every week.
Yeah.
I was kind of like building a little bit of like rapport in the church, like speaking to people, fellowshipping, stuff like that, here and there, because I was still very like, I'm still going through it. So I'm still like, I'm not really willing to open up and talk to people. Yeah. And it was during December, so that they're very much letting people know that crossover's coming. They're going to do a New Year's service. And I'd never gone to church for New Year's. I was always outside for New Year's.
Yeah.
And even still, I was planning to like just be with my friends.
Yeah.
So when New Year's came, I actually had my friends at my house, just doing the usual that we would do, like catching a vibe, smoking, drinking a little bit, whatever. And I'd for ages been umming and ahhing about going to this crossover service. And I think it was a point, maybe in the day or a few days before, I decided I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I'm still going to have my friends over, but I'm going to go. So I left them in my house and went to this crossover service. And it was deep. It was very much like talking about, you know, where we want to go in this new year and like building that relationship with God, having that fresh start for the new year.
Yeah.
And there was a point where we went into prayer about what we want from God in the new year.
Yeah.
And I was so like, it's funny, like church, yeah, you just get emotional for no reason. Like it will hit
It's not
you
for no
sideways.
reason.
You look, sometimes you'll be in there, you'll be crying. You're like, in your head, you're like, why am I crying? Like, it just like spirit just hits you. So in this prayer, I was praying and saying, God, I don't want to go into this next year with this depression that it's been on my shoulders for too long. It feels too heavy, and I need you to lift it for me. Like, I need you to lift it for me so that I can just go into this new year fresh. Like, I can't carry it anymore. And obviously the prayer was longer than that, but that was the depth of my prayer. And by the time I went home and went back to my friends, I kind of just felt that lift.
Wow.
I felt like a change in mood. Like I just felt, literally a shift. I can only call it a shift.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even fully ready to change. Like when I've gone back home and I've gone back to my friends, I've continued in my pattern, you know? I think actually by that time in December, I'd stopped smoking, but I was still drinking. I was still like ready to go out, whatever. Like, well, it's New Year's, like what we doing? But I would say that was my first catalyst into actually building a personal relationship with God, and then I started to seek God properly in the new year after that.
Wow, how did you do that?
I just continued in church.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, faith comes by hearing and hearing the word. So
Yeah.
continuing in church and like allowing it to convict me just allowed me to change some things. So smoking dropped out.
Yeah.
I think a few other like personality things like kind of dropped out. And also like from that shift, people started to say like, oh, like you seem lighter, like you seem brighter. And it was like people that maybe didn't even know that I was going church or things like that. They were just like, yeah, you just seem
Like
different.
a weight's been lifted.
Yeah. So them seeing that in me kind of made me see it in myself a bit more.
Yeah.
And also it helped me to pursue God more. And I think my pastor was also like a big help in that. Like I opened up to her a lot about how I felt and the things I was going through, and she guided me. She was the one that gave me things like Matthew 6:33, like seeking God, and you know, all things will be added, and just I could just be open to her about things I was feeling and the pressures, and she would fill it with scripture and give me things to like help navigate my situation a bit more.
I love that. So how do you feel now? I guess that was a few years ago. Like, how's your relationship with God now? Are you still? I obviously know, like, you're in church.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like, how has it been for you, like, being able to get back to God and having that you're having your own personal relationship with him?
It's honestly been great. Like, I think seeking God is not easy, but then there's so many benefits to it. And the things that it's mad, because I think when I started seeking God, I guess the depression just stemmed from like things in my career, right?
Yeah.
But then all the things that I ended up trying to change to better myself and have that relationship with God, but all personal. In the end, everything that came from it career-wise was just like, was mad. I think the trajectory started to build up again at work. Like it was slow, but it was sure. It was steady.
Yeah.
And I started to feel myself gaining direction again. You know, things like campaigns started to come in again, and God will set you back on your feet. A word will set you back on your feet, and that's
Always.
kind of like the direction of where life went for me personally and in career.
Amazing. So personally, do you feel like God has been moving in your life as well, like side by side? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely feel like God's been moving in my life and just set me back on my feet in terms of like letting me feel happy again, letting me feel joy, but joy in a simpler way. Like I think a lot of things, I think God broke me down in some ways in terms of like, you know, I was living on my own and stuff like that. Like I ended up having to move back home.
Yeah.
And I think life kind of simplified again, like all the things that you would maybe like that society bases your success on, like, yes, you're moving out, you're moving up, your money's growing, this and that, like that all simplified for a moment.
Yeah.
And it was just me at home, going to church, trying to work. And that was like the routine for a minute. I think it is kind of still is the routine, but things are being added to me.
I love that. How's your relationship? I guess your mom, you say your mom was probably the first person that kind of introduced you to God and just getting you back into your faith. Has your mom had a big part to play in that?
Not really, but I think that makes her happy.
Yeah.
Because like I'm doing it for me. So it's like she's glad to see like, okay, like you're actually just seeking God on your own. Like you're actually like, I think she also like kind of gets some fire from it. Because like in Caris, we all like as a church read a book like during the month or whatever. So like say like this month at the moment we're reading Genesis. So some time of me going to Caris and my mum's clocking that I'm reading like a chapter every day. She was like, oh, what book are you lot reading this month? And I'm like, yeah, like we're doing, I think it was Proverbs at the time. So I'm like, yeah, we're doing Proverbs. She's like, cool. I come in, I see her and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, what, you lot are on chapter 13 today, no? Like, I'm like, oh, right. So I think it's giving her some fire as well, to be honest, which is nice.
That is really nice. And I love that you guys do that. Like, I feel like community is a big thing for you as well. Have you always felt like you had a community when you were younger, or would you feel like you built your own community now?
I think I always had a community in terms of like my friends and stuff, and I think it's only expanded through career, and now it's expanding through church. Like I'm building, you become part of the body, and I feel like I'm really trying to step into that. I was like, I think as I said before, like I didn't used to fellowship when I first started going to the church, and one of my friends at church, she would basically drag me to fellowship. She would clock that I would leave straight after the service, and started dragging me back and be like, no, you're gonna like speak to people. Like when you leave here, I want you to tell me 2 people that you've spoken to. Like,
I love that.
Yeah, she's a G. I actually call her Barnabas because Barnabas in the Bible was obviously the son of encouragement.
Yeah.
But she's really that for me. Like, I think she's that for a lot of people at church, but she's really a Barnabas. I can't lie.
For those who don't know what fellowship is, what is fellowship?
I think fellowship is community building, but in a church way. It's speaking to people so that you can actually have a proper relationship and grow with them. I think the idea of church is that God is the head of the church and we are the body, where many moving parts of one body, which is the body of Christ. So to do that, you kind of need to fellowship. You need to be able to grow with people. You need to be able to connect with them and know them. And it does help to sharpen you in terms of your faith and things like that. Like things like iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 things there, because firstly, you have to become iron.
Yeah. To sharpen another one, you need to become an iron. Yeah.
And then you have to know people to be able to sharpen them, to be able to like pour word into their life, whether it's like speaking to them and they're giving you scripture or just encouraging you or doing Bible studies with you and things like that. You have to have that openness so that you guys can connect and actually have that relationship.
100%. Sometimes I forget, like, obviously people say read the word or meditate on it. And sometimes it's like, the Bible is not an easy book to read.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why like fellowship or like prayer groups or like your friendship groups, it's really important to have God-fearing people around you, because there's a lot of stuff that you might not understand, but like someone else can help you do that, especially with the word of God.
100%.
Because it can be quite hard. Sometimes I'm reading scripture and I'm like, am I depicting this correctly? Is this, am I making sense of it? Because it doesn't feel like I am. Because sometimes it's hard and you're like, okay, this is not an easy book to read. So I feel like it's so important to have a community, but also have people that understand God and trying to seek him, because if not, it's going to be a tough life.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So let's get into like today. You are doing a lot, actually. Like, you're actually doing a lot. Do you want to talk about your new endeavor?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we give thanks. The
Always.
new venture is Event Studios.
Yes.
Me and my friend work on it and we've called it Archive 24. So we're kind of growing that into a creative studio where what we do in terms of events is, rather than say like a step and repeat, which is like the boards that people have and they have a lot of logos and stuff on them, you stand in front of them and get your picture taken.
Yeah.
We want to create something that's more immersive. So we create like a set design that will be themed to the event, where people come in, you have like professional studio lighting, you have your photo taken like by me, and you have like a shot in that space, which is, it feels, what our aim for it is to feel more special, to feel like something that you want to keep. And that's been working really well. Like we've done it with Stormzy. He was the kind of the catalyst for that, which was like just a happy pairing in terms of, I think it was something that I wanted to do, but it was something that his team also wanted to do. And it led to me doing it with Damson Idris, to doing it with Netflix, to doing it with the Forbes family, to doing it with Adidas. And it's just like, it's growing more and more and it's developing more and more. And I think the ideas in terms of the set design and stuff, they're getting to expand, because we started with Stormzy's birthday and Damson's birthday essentially kind of being like gala type vibes.
Yeah.
And when it's gone into corporate, like with Netflix and with Adidas, we're getting to expand and show like we can create different themes to fit different styles of things, and it doesn't just have to be luxury, but we'll create something that fits your event no matter what your event is.
That's so cool. How did you come up with the name?
My friend came up with the name because it's an archive of different things, an archive of different events.
Yeah.
And the two, because we're the brainchild, the two of us was making it happen.
Yeah.
And at first it was just a crew of 4, and plus the 24, like we want to like kind of leaning on 24/7, like it's something that we want to continuously keep doing. So yeah, we're going at it 24.
No, I love that. How's it been working with all these people? You mentioned dancing, like Netflix. Like, how's this all been for you? Like, it must be crazy to think, okay, I put my camera down and said, you know what? I'm done with making hood videos to now working with the biggest stars in the world. How does that make you feel?
It's such a blessing. I think sometimes when you're in it, sometimes you don't really see everything, but when you have the output, like when I have the photos and I'm going through them in an edit or something like that, I see it. Excites me.
Yeah,
it excites me. I see the blessings from it. I see how great it is, and I feel like I'm blessed that pretty much everyone I work with is super down to earth.
Yeah.
Like, they're very on board with what I'm doing, and like the rapport is just always great to have as well. So yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing.
And I know this is like just like the tip of the iceberg for you as well. Like, in terms of what you're doing. Like, do you feel like you found your purpose?
Yeah, definitely. I think the direction of purpose can always change, but I think I'm in the lane of my purpose, 100%.
When did you know you found your purpose or in the lane? Was there a point where you said, actually, do you know what? I think this is the right thing. Do you feel like it was God? Do you feel like you just knew?
I think I always knew, because I was always pursuing, but like before, there's been so much points where I'd have doubts about it. And it's funny, like when I read like people's stories in the Bible, like I see it now, like I think I touched on the fact that we were reading Genesis. So let's look at like Abraham.
Yep.
And God said to him that he was gonna have a baby and he was gonna be a father of nations. And he believed God, he was faithful in it, but then you went and had a child of Hagar, you went and had Ishmael anyway. So it's like you tried to force
something that God said.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You tried to force God's plan. You had faith in it, but you didn't have faith in how God was gonna do it.
Yep.
So even though I've always had faith in like my purpose, I think now I lean on God more to show me the path of where I should go and how things should be done. And when I don't quite know, there's a lot of times in the Bible where God won't tell people exactly what he needs them to do. So get up and go.
Yeah, he said, I'm just telling you to go there and go. Don't ask any more questions.
Yeah.
Just go. And you're like, okay. But it always works out in the end. There's never been a time where you've not been obedient to God and you've been like, God, why did you make me do this? Or why has this happened? It's always like, oh, your plan is always bigger than ours. Like, and everything happens in God's timing, which is sometimes hard to be like, but I want it to happen now.
Yeah.
But you're like, God's time is always the right time. He knows everything. So it's something that you just have to be like, leaning on, not my own understanding.
That's it. Yeah, 100%.
Because when you do that, then you'll just do what you want. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be leaning on your own understanding all the time. You got to go and read that Bible.
It's true.
So
it's true.
It's like, where do you see yourself in like 5 years? Have you got any other plans that you feel like, do you know what? This is Archives 24 is going. You're doing other things, but like, is there any other things that you're thinking, actually, do you know what?
Career wise, I see everything growing.
Yeah.
I feel like Archive, at the moment where it lives in events, it will just turn into like a creative studio and we'll be able to create different solutions for different brands in terms of not just the event studio and the set design, but anything that people want, like whether it comes to creating campaigns and eventually bringing more creatives on board so we can cover video and cover events in different ways. Like, I think a lot of the times currently with the event studios, I might be situated in the studio, but people still want like reportage of the event.
Yeah.
So I want to start bringing in other creatives and cover the things about events that are missing.
Yeah.
In life, I mean, I'm going to keep pursuing God. So I can definitely see myself growing
Amen.
in my relationship with God and being able to do more, being able to serve more.
Yeah.
I've started to, I mean, I've served at the moment in security, and I've started to join my media team. So it's a blessing to be able to like apply the skills that I've learned from outside and actually use them to serve God, because obviously He's blessed me with a talent, and
Yeah.
now I get to use it in His house and actually do it purposefully for Him. And marriage.
Amen.
I see marriage in my next 5 years.
I love that. Like, I love that, you know, and I can see that like God is working in you as well. You know, you're just like, you're so confident when you say things, and it's like, you know that God is gonna either do that or more.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have no doubt that the things that you want to do, you're gonna do. And I think what's so incredible about you as well, Ashley, is like you've elevated like the culture as well, and like the photography. Do you know what I mean? Like the pictures that you take, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, how did you get these pictures? I'm like, yeah. Sometimes I see the picture, I'm like, okay, this, when I see this picture online, it is gonna look cold. But like the pictures even from like Stormzy's birthday, I was like, these are crisp. Like,
Thank you.
this is like top tier. People can like put these in their houses. Like, how does that make you feel that you know that you're taking like iconic photos of people that people are like, yo, have you seen this photo?
I feel special doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm also excited for the pictures to age.
Yeah.
I think I didn't really, when I got into photography, I was capturing everything in this present moment. Like, I'm going to the shows that I want to go to. This artist is doing this at this time, or this album's come out and they're performing it. But now that I've been doing it, now that I'm getting into my 10th year, when I'm starting to look back at older pictures, I'm like, this is now a moment in time.
Yeah.
People look at it and they're like, oh my gosh, I remember when this song came out on YouTube, or it brings me back to when this artist was doing this. And I think another thing that's expanded my vision as to why I want to see things age is because I've been going to a lot of other photo exhibitions and seeing what other photographers older than me have done, and they've captured their time. But it's now something to look back on. Now you see the legacy, you see like the story of how we got here. And I think in years to come, people will want to have more understanding of what we lived through and what we were going through, and the things that we've seen. So
100%.
I'm excited to see how things age and where it grows from there.
I'm excited too. So I think also like we're in a time period where like Black music and culture is like thriving, and to be able to tell these stories through photos is going to be insane. And like 10 years to be like, oh, do you remember when this happened? Remember when that happened? And it's like, okay, this is like part of culture.
Yeah.
And it's part of history, should I say? Not even part of culture, it's part of history, which is so exciting. I'm excited to see what you're going to do next, because I know obviously Archive 24 is amazing. You're still doing all your amazing photography stuff, and like you're doing a lot.
Thank you.
And you're serving the Lord while you're doing it.
Amen.
And I think it's just nice that we can always go back to God. Like, you've gone through like battling depression and you've come out the other side, but you also know that God was always there.
Yeah.
And our relationship with God is not perfect. And I think sometimes people think, okay, I've abandoned God, so he's never gonna let me come back to him. That is a time where he's like, I'm here, hello.
100%.
Ask me for help, because I'm literally here and I want to help you. So I think it's just amazing that you were able to share that with us. And I think it's going to touch a lot of people, especially Black men, where sometimes they might be going through these things, but haven't got the support maybe, or the community to be like, okay, I need help, or might not have the relationship with God, and hopefully this touches them. So I want to say thank you, Ashley.
Thanks for having me.
No, I'm excited for everyone to hear this. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We all go through ups and downs, so I hope this episode brought you some comfort. Remember, don't get complacent during your blessings, and do not give up during your battles. Please don't forget to like, follow and subscribe. I'm Sheniece Charway, and you just listened to Battles and Blessings.